Hi guys, welcome to our organic bikepacking channel. I am Sela and today we're going to be unboxing and reviewing the Exposure Strada Super Bright 1500, and I'm going to focus on 6 main categories in no particular order, and that is the hardware, the brightness, the features, the battery, the usability, and the price. Throughout this review we will see various videos between this light and other lights that range from 400 lumens to 800 lumens to 1200 lumens that are used in comparison. After that I will be giving my final thought about the light I mean. This is not a sponsored video as I personally bought this light and this bike, so everything I say is based on what I've seen and experienced with it and not from what I've heard. So before I begin, this video is going to be long and I can't make it any shorter for a few obvious reasons. I want to be as informative as possible to give you a full in-depth review of everything you need to know about this bike light. And since I think the brightness is the center of attention, I'm going to spend a lot of time comparing it with other lights to show how well or poorly the Exposure Strada Super Bright 1500 performs. Alright, so obviously I've opened this box before, and this is exactly what you would get when you first receive the light. And overall the box feels very sturdy all around, and there is a sticker outside here that briefly tells what the model of the light is. Alright, so you'll first see the light itself. Let's go and take a brief look all around, and we're going to come back and take a closer look at that later. And here's the cover. And this is one of the chargers that it comes with, and obviously I do need an adapter for that. Now this is the remote control. You can activate that by pressing this button here, and the other end just plugs into the charging port. And these are the bands for this control cable. And you also get this USB charging cable that they included, which is nice. Sticker. Instruction manual. The light comes with this bracket designed for 35 and 31.8 millimeters by either keeping or removing this rubber piece here as needed. And the horizontal angle can be adjusted by loosening this bolt here. It can also rotate to 180 degrees, allowing the light to mount facing the other direction. However, the leverage looks to be quite weak. The light can also be mounted on or below the bars. In my case with this bike I have it below the bars due to the handlebar size, the cables, and an interference with the Garmin. You will need a 4mm hex key to adjust the mount. That means you probably won't be able to adjust it on the fly, but that also means it is rock solid and there's zero play once this thing is on. They also make a different mount option for aero bar, similar to an out front mount that uses both of the stem bolts to hold on to it. I haven't been able to get my hands on it as I called just about every exposure retailers in the US, and no one has had it, so hopefully they'll make that available soon. So let's take a moment to acknowledge the overall construction of the light, and I hope you guys are ready for this advertisement. First of all, this thing feels like a tank. It feels strong, aluminum strong from Great Britain, not plastic, and weighs 253 grams, although I think it will weigh a ton more once I fully charge the battery. Wait, what? The front lens is about 2 to 3 millimeters thick. The display through the back window is well lit by 2 LEDs. I have not tested the durability of the light, but from the feel of it, it is my least concern. One of the unique parts that I enjoy looking at is how it shows a little bit of its skeleton through the red display. And then the nice feature of the display is it rotates accordingly based on the orientation of the light. The waterproof gasket that plugs the charging port is thick and snug, and I'm not too worried about moisture coming in. The light carries this traditional retro but modern look and has a similar shape to the MK10 flashlight. But as soon as it's put on the bike, it turns into this unique look, and I really dig that, especially when it's mounted below the bars. And I'm almost positive that no riders will ride past you without having the second look. So a couple things I should clarify. First is that I consider myself more of a road cyclist, light gravel, light trail cyclist as opposed to a mountain biker. And not because I brought the wrong helmet, but just the way that I can't ride. So my thoughts today are going to be based on road and light gravel. So brightness, there are high, medium, low, day flash, and SOS modes. So here's how to operate the light. One button controls everything. Press that once, you'll get the welcome screen and it tells you the battery percentage. Double press to turn the light on and it will tell you what program you're in, and whatever program you had it on previously, it will remain the same the next time you turn it back on. Now press it once to go from one mode to another, high, medium and low, and press and hold on to it for about a second. You'll activate the flash mode. Press it once again to get out from flash and hold on to it for about 2 seconds to turn it off. To choose the program, hold on to the button for about 3 seconds or so until you see program 1 pops up. And then to go through them, just keep on pressing the button once. And to select the program that you want, just keep on going until you get there. Once you do, just let go. It will automatically set that program for you. Now we know these two LEDs make up to 1500 lumens, but one of the things I don't know for sure is how many lumens that are packed in each one of these LED. So the top LED is more of a spotlight which throws the light out further with narrow path, and the bottom one is more of a floodlight which illuminates wider. That means you see a wider area in front of you as opposed to further. So let's go back to beam patterns really quickly. As a road cyclist, we tend to ride our bike faster on road than we do on gravel or on the trail, so being able to see further away is an ideal. But when I ride my bike, I also like to ride as near and safe as possible to the right side of the road, and usually there are glass, debris, particles along those areas, and there are times that I need to make a quick decision which way to turn into in order to get away from those particles. And being able to see in a wider area in front of me is helpful, and this is also important when the road gets kind of quiet out in the countryside. It's one of my usual rides there. We sometimes tend to ride our bike side by side, and not to mention it's very helpful around the corner where there's a lot of gravel and riding near the canal as well. Gravel! Alright, let's look at all of its brightness settings. Right now we're on program 1. This is high mode and that will burn for 2 hours. And this is the medium mode and that will burn for 6 hours. And the low mode is impossible to ride with. This is to be seen, you can walk with it. It's more for a camping mode if you're bikepacking or bike touring. It's really nice and it does take a while to warm up. So I had it on for about 20 seconds and something similar to this will actually burn between 12 to 36 hours. So it's there if you need it. Program 2 high for 3 hours. Medium for 10 hours. Low for 24 hours. Now surprisingly, this one has a longer burn time than the low mode on program 1, which only has 12 hours, yet it is brighter. So here's the comparison footage. And if you're curious, I have included the comment from Charlie from the Exposure team that explains why in the description. So thank you Charlie for clarifying that. However, I've compared them many times after this video and I'm still not convinced. The brightness and the output on program 2 low mode look brighter with twice the run times. Alright, program 3 high mode for 4 hours. Medium 12 hours and low mode for 36 hours. And this is the flash mode, steady low and high flash. And yes, it is pretty bright compared to all of the lights I have. So let's compare these to my light and motion task 1200 as in 1200 lumens in terms of beam patterns and brightness. Now I wish I had another Exposure Strada light with me because this is not a fair comparison for neither lights due to the output lumens and beam patterns. But I really hope that this will give you a general idea of what the exposure light looks like. So here are the tests again, and I'm just going to go through high and medium modes this time, and this is the Exposure Strada Program 1 high mode. And I also did the range test by measuring my baby footsteps here, so about 25 steps, I'd say 25 feet. But we can tilt both of these lights up a little bit if we need to see further. And this is light and motion at 1200 lumens. And that's what I meant by hotspot, where there's one focused beam right in the center and the rest just spills. And on the Exposure Strada, I don't notice as much hotspot as I do on the light and motion, regardless in any mode. So to kind of give you an idea in terms of brightness, I find that all of the high modes on program 1, 2, 4 and 5 are brighter than the high mode on light and motion in both width and length. And you may ask, doesn't the hotspot shine further? That is true, I did play around with the angle, but the further it gets, the harder to see what's closer to me. And right now I'm on this crushed limestone road here, so it makes everything a little bit brighter, but I'll start riding out to creepy places later so we can see this in real life and see how scared these lights get. Alright, so to recap, these are all the differences in high modes on program 1, 2 and 3. And this is the medium slash low mode on program 4. I'll explain why I said medium and low later. And this is the medium mode on light and motion. So I just made my way into this bike trail here, and for reference, this area is almost a complete pitch black, and I probably wouldn't be able to walk without some sort of light. So the visibility right now is really good. The light goes really far, it spreads really wide. I can see the trees, the fence until I switch to this medium slash low mode. Now I'm losing quite a bit of bridge in front of me, not so much on the width, which is good because I need that. So here's the thing, I had to come back to this trail multiple times to reshoot at different corners, different turns, different places, because the first time I came out I didn't go far enough where the sharp turns are. So in short, I'm just gonna say that all of the medium modes in programs 1, 2 and 3 and low modes in programs 4, 5 and 6 are very comfortable at about 15 miles per hour or slower. Anything faster than that, I need at least the lowest of the high mode it has, and that's on programs 3 and 6. Now, because of all of the turns and corners, I'd prefer wider beams over hotspot. Although if this was a straight road, riding in this kind of brightness, my preference would be the opposite. But when it comes to high mode, no questions asked. I would much rather go with the Exposure Strada as it spills and throws a lot of lights out in front of me. So here's another back road that doesn't really have much lights to it. In fact, there's nothing out here, but that'll give you a good idea of what this light looks like out here in the countryside. So this is light in motion high mode. I did tilt the angle a little bit just to gain some distance. And this is the Exposure Strada, still on high mode program 4. So it reaches to about the same distance, but the amount of spill is just crazy. So here's what it is. When I switch to the light in motion 1200, I feel as if there was something missing there. And as soon as I switch it back to the Exposure Strada, everything is complete. And part of that is because that it reaches further, or maybe about the same distance in this case, but the amount of spread is just so satisfying. So let's talk about features, and then we'll go back to look at some comparison videos, and then I'll take you on the ride with me. So this was a bit overwhelming at first since there are quite a few programs on here, 7 programs to be exact, but I figured it out, so bear with me. I'm going to try my best to explain this because I think this is one of the coolest features they have, and it's probably one of the highlights of this light. Now we know some lights have a race mode where it only goes from high to low and low to high, so you don't have to cycle through the medium and flash modes, which is nice, but when biking at night I find the low mode is too low and not very usable unless I'm fixing a flat or riding uphill. So to consume the energy, I'm almost always high on the... Ooh, not today. In high or medium mode most of the time. And it would be nice to be able to just switch between those two modes. And one other thing that I'm always hoping for is, what if we can manually set the lumens to our desired brightness? And this light offers something that is really close to that. So let's take a look at it. So we've seen the first 3 programs earlier in terms of brightness and run times. Now let's talk about the race mode on programs 4, 5 and 6. And there are only 2 modes per program for faster switching. Now since these have the same run times, they threw me off a little bit, but thanks to Charlie once again for the explanation. So in short, look at them as if they were car headlights, high beams and low beams. And that's just a courtesy to oncoming traffic. I can't speak for them how much different it makes, but from my perspective, the brightness are very similar. So it shows the difference that it dims a little, but in person it's really difficult to tell, especially when you have to switch from one program to another. So from here, when I say medium on program 4, 5 or 6, it also means low, but I'll be sure to include the caption as we go along. Now because this light has quite a few programs that allow you to choose different run times, that's why I feel as if I could manually adjust the lumens to the brightness I need. Although it's not 100% manual, this is really close to what I'm hoping for. And that is one way to consume the energy while still maintain about the same level of brightness. Now, some of you may ask, since the burn time increases, how many lumens decrease per program? That was the same question I asked the Exposure Strada, and that's when Charlie comes in to save the night one last time. So I'll just quote what Charlie said. The runtimes and outputs are proportional, so if you double the runtime, you'll have the output 1500 lumens for 2 hours, so 750 for 4 hours, etc. I was way off with numbers. I mean, I consider myself pretty good with math until the 3rd grade, but that's still bright. The light, I mean, not bright, but for the given 750 lumens, this is pretty bright, especially for the light that spreads this wide. Alright then, so I went for another bike ride, but this time I brought my trusty Light Experion 850 lumens with me. And while I have my 400 lumen spotlight from Light as well, let's go ahead and have a look at that. And this is at 850 lumens from the Experion. So for reference, the Experion is known to have a wider beam in its class. And this is the Exposure Strada at 750 lumens. So yeah, we know the Experion 850 lumens is brighter, but look at the angle, look how wide the exposure is. I mean, it's not night and day difference, but it's like toilet paper and toothbrush difference. And between the two, I know exactly which one I choose, because can't beat the feeling of having a clean mouth. So the more important question is, how is the visibility of the Exposure Strada at 750 lumens? Right now I can see comfortably with about 15 to 16 miles an hour. Now because this is a straight road, I can definitely go a little bit more than that with this mode. And to give you an idea, the second time when I block the light, that is an indication I start seeing the pole on my right here. Not the reflection, but the pole. So in terms of visibility of 750 lumens that burns for 4 hours, it is good. I have no issue here. Now there are times that I'm going to need to bump up the brightness, so if I was going back to that trail earlier and ride 18 to 20, it would be nice to go at full brightness as the path is narrow and there are tight turns with branches hitting me everywhere, mountain lions sneaking up on you and whatnot. Heck, I'll even use my taillight as my headlight for that matter. And that brings me to one of the things that might affect you. So for the purpose of this video, I constantly had to switch between programs all the time. And in order to switch between program to another requires some time and most likely a complete stop of the bike. Assuming riding in the dark, it goes like this. 2 seconds to turn off the light, now you go. I can't see. Then you turn the light back on, which takes another second. At this point, you realize the consequences, so you may continue to ride. But in my case, I stop the bike, switch off the light again, 3 seconds to go inside the program and a couple more seconds to choose the program I want. What I'm saying is, for any reason that you feel the need of switching while riding, which I cannot see, these are some of the things to expect. In my case, this won't be a problem at all because I can ride comfortably with any of the high modes they offer. So I'm still on high mode program 6 here, and this road is pretty well lit, I would say. So no problem here in terms of seeing. Alright, let's hit some gravel on the canal. This is high mode program 4, and the canal is to my right, and the road that I'm on is a little wider than the bike trail earlier, maybe between 8 to 9 feet wide, and my visual is better as the gravel helps make it brighter. But as soon as I switch to the medium mode, it's doable, it's okay, 15 miles an hour or less, but my eyes just beg for more. And now switching to high mode program 4, this is once again very satisfying all around, and this is light and motion at its highest. So now is a good time to mention one interesting thing that I learned about this light in terms of its beam patterns. Going back to what I said earlier that this light feels more of a floodlight than a spotlight or hotspot. That is still true, and I can confirm that because I don't notice as much hotspot as I do on other lights. And I realized the importance of having wider beams, that they're really easy on the eyes, on my eyes. And I don't feel as blind because the beams spread almost evenly and there's little to no hotspot. So in other words, they don't force me to focus on one particular area. And just in case if I need to take my eyes off to look around, again, I don't feel as blind. And this is not to say get rid of all of your lights and go out and buy this light. That's not the point. They have their benefits too, like we've seen various comparison videos earlier that narrower beams no doubt will illuminate further when comparing the medium brightness of, let's say, the spread pattern versus hotspot pattern. So take it as something that I've learned over the past couple of months. I could be wrong, but I just want to share that with you. And now I'm back with one of my night groups riding on road, and this is what it looks like on high mode program 1. Now I don't know what light the gentleman riding next to me is running, but it's very focused, and now I can see my shadow. He's behind me. Now I lost him. I don't know what happened there. But again, this is not to show you which light is brighter, but rather to illustrate how wide the beams are. So this is medium, and the medium mode is probably plenty on group ride because I get 800 to 1000 lumens or more either from beside me or behind me, and I'm not always in high mode all the time, especially riding behind someone because the reflection is just too bright sometimes. But when I'm up front, then yeah, I'll pop it in. Alright, so to kind of wrap it up, all of the medium modes in programs 1, 2, and 3 and low modes in programs 4, 5, and 6 are very comfortable at about 15 miles per hour or slower. And all of the high modes in programs 1 through 6, they put out just enough brightness to pull at about 20 to 25 miles an hour. And program 7, I don't use it very much because it is too low for most of riding conditions. As for the battery, I find it to be accurate. I normally turn the flash mode on during the day, and one of the rides I did a few weeks ago was about 4 hours of riding time and 5.5 of elapsed time, I think. I did remember to turn the light off twice during my 6 snack breaks, about 20 minutes at most for those 2 breaks, I'd say. I started the ride with the battery fully charged with over 11 hours of blinking time and had about 60% left when I was done, so I'm pretty happy with the battery accuracy. And the light takes about 6 hours to fully charge using just this normal charger here, and I suspect the provided power supply charges it even faster. 3 LED colors that tell you the battery status, what mode you're in addition to the displayed letters. Green means high, and if the LEDs continue to stay green, it also means that the battery is above 50%. Amber is medium and between 50 to 25. Red is low and between 25 to 5%, and then red flash is 5% or less. Let's talk about the price. As of right now, this light retails at about $350 US. Ooh, I just got a cramp. But is it worth it? So let's look at some things I don't like, and then I'll give you my conclusion. So things I don't like. Let's talk about quality control. This remote cable is a good idea, and I would use it on my gravel only if it doesn't do this. I always dim my light when possible when riding on a trail or bike path because I don't want to blind walkers, and not having to take my hand off the bars is even better. But I need to press it really hard, harder than what I'm supposed to, and sometimes it triggers 2 clicks instead of 1, so that does not work for me, and that's why you don't see it being used in this video. So quality control, guys, this is premium stuff, and I don't expect this to happen. Now, it's probably a bad time to critique on things like this due to short staff, and they've probably been hit pretty hard also, and that's understandable. I can see past that, so I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here until the second dislike that I'm about to say. So, now in terms of brightness, judging from the burn time, low mode on program 1 is supposed to be brighter than low modes on programs 2 and 3. But it isn't, and I've read that explanation, and I'm aware that certain lumens passing through certain LEDs and diffusers and whatnot, but guys, it is nowhere as bright as the low mode on program 2, both width and length, unless the light is made to behave that way, which I don't understand why, because it's already too low for what it is. So for those of you who have the same light or similar light, do you have the same issue? And I was going to comment on the charging port that is not universal, but because they were thoughtful enough to make this happen and to minimize the additional charging port, and that's why it has to look like that, so I'll leave it alone. But I'll still recommend getting additional USB charger or the adapter for the power supply. Now, anything that prevents people from getting this light is the price. $350 is steep for me, so yeah. Alright guys, now this is pretty big, and what I'm about to say will probably make this light from good to perfect, for me at least. Now look at the gaps. It jumps from 1500 lumens to about 550 lumens to who knows what, 200, 250? I mean, what happened here? Did somebody just bonk or what? And this is the highest order outputs that this light has. I mean, now if you can have 1 or 2 matter of fact, have just 1 dedicated program that holds all of these high modes. So for example, program 1 high mode 1500 lumens, medium 1150, low 750. There you go. So you get your 2 hours, your 3 hours, and your 4 hours. Instead of making us going through programs, now we only have to deal with modes. And that is perfect. You guys got 6 more programs to play around with. That's what I think will complete this light. Now, like I mentioned earlier, most of my rides I don't have any problem stopping my bike and changing between programs. But again, that is not the point. It would be perfect to have 1 program that holds all of the high modes, and I think that's what's missing. So here are the things I like, and let me get this out of the way first. Nobody spends this kind of money to get 1500 lumens. We know we can spend less than half the money and get more lumens. And 1500 lumens is good, but that was not what I'm after. So things that I like are the features. I like that it has many different level of brightness for my riding styles, and also the accuracy of the battery and the long burn time is important to me, to all of us probably. And the fact that they include the screen and the LEDs that tell me the battery percentage and what mode I'm in, these are some really nice touch. Now, even though most of my night rides will only last about 2 hours or so, I don't intend to drain out the battery during that 2 hours, and that's because of a few reasons. What if I or people I ride with get a flat or blow up sidewall or mechanical issues or anything that forces me to walk instead of riding? Knowing that I can ride comfortably at 750 lumens that lasts for 4 hours, that makes me feel very confident. Oh, did I mention that we don't get good coverage out here? That's why they still have this ancient here. One thing that surprised me the most, and I like that a lot, is how wide the beams are. And like I pointed out earlier, that the light spreads out evenly and it doesn't create as much hotspot. Therefore, it doesn't draw my eyes to focus on one certain area, so I don't feel as blind when I look away. And also the ability to see in wider area, that's very helpful. Now, that's gonna change the way I buy bicycle headlights from now. Another thing I like is the mount. I like the flexibility. It is very stable and it's quick to mount and dismount. And because of my handlebar size and the cables, this is the only mount that works best for this bike. Clamps from other lights just can't wrap around it because they're too small, and the strap that's on my Light and Motion is almost too short. I need to remove the rubber piece to gain some space. But after using the Light and removing it, it always puts this big old dent in my bar tape. And finally, I like the aesthetic and the construction. The build quality seems to be strong, and I like the traditional retro but modern look a lot. And that has been one of the many parts on my bike that I enjoy looking at the most. Oof, my bad. So when I add all of these things together, even though $350 seems a lot, it is a lot. I would buy this again. As a matter of fact, I've been thinking a lot about mountain biking lately. Stop it. I might just try the Max D instead. We'll see. But again, it would be perfect if they can include one program to hold all of the high modes together. Alright, enough about me. What about you guys? What do you think about this light? What kind of rides do you do and what lights you carry with you and what beam patterns do you prefer? Let me know in the comment. I'm always searching for new lights, and let me know also what have I missed, what did I not cover in case I decide to do a follow-up video. My friends, it's been a really long ride but good ride, and I hope you find this informative and helpful in terms of whether thinking about buying this light or other lights. Until next time, have a safe ride.